All right, shalom, everybody, shalom. This is Brother Kahleial with the King James Bible University and the House of the Lost Sheep of Israel. And the first announcement that we'll make before this teaching even gets rolling is that the King James Bible University and the House of the Lost Sheep of Israel have absolutely no affiliation or unity or covenant or any type of agreement with any Christian organization, any Black Hebrew Israelite camp organization. Anybody that says they're a Black Hebrew Israelite, anybody that talk about Negro spiritualism, anybody that talking about they some Black Indians, anybody that talking about they a part of a Pan-Africanism movement, anybody that's talking about all these things. Because King James Bible University is an institution of learning that is 100% separated from all other institutions that are out there. Holding on to the one true doctrine is what we do here at King James Bible University, following the Spirit of God, Jehovah, who is the one that is our guide, our king, our ruler, the Prince of Peace. So understanding that, we have to always remember that no matter what, the things in nature that we see are things that can help us in our journey and help us to understand what it is that we should be doing. And in this lesson, today, we're going to be looking at bees, because bees are creatures that have a whole lot of knowledge and wisdom that they actually possess. So the thing about it is we're going to take the time to look at a couple of things with these bees and the things that we can take from them and how we should move and apply to our life and our journeys, and then understand also some pretty interesting things that's going on that was seen and shown. So we're going to go through this. But first, we're going to start with the spiritual dictionary. And right here we see bees, plural with the S, workers together, showing us about these bees. It's either worker together or workers together. Bees, diligence, industrious, sweetness, nourishment, unity, protection, swarm, and sting. All right, because these bees, when they're all together, they are all these laborers. They are all putting in this work. They're all doing what it is that they have to do for their hive. And the unity of these bees are very much so apparent, because the way that they all work, they all work in a very systematic way. They all work together. They all work in harmony with one another, all the way down from the brood, which will be the babies that they have in their hive. They're cared for and tended to in certain ways, all the way up to the aged bees, all the way up to the queen. They all serve a role and a purpose in their hive on how they move around. And the same thing is they make honey. They produce these things, and the way that they go about doing it, we see they'll be tied to the sweetness, because honeys, they have to go and gather pollen from the different flowers and those different things like that. They'll go and gather pollen and also spread pollen to other plants, to other flowers and things like that. And when they do that, it actually spreads that around, but they also use that pollen to feed their young as well. But that's not the main thing when it comes to what they actually are gathering. So yeah, they do that, and it benefits all the flowers, all the plants that's out there that can be pollinated, that they actually go to. It benefits them. But that pollen is what they use to feed their young, but they also gather nectar from those flowers, from these different things. And the nectar that they receive, that is what is used to produce the honey, because they process that nectar and bring it through a process to actually make honey, which we see the sweetness and this nourishment that is here. Bees working in the unity to provide the protection to their entire hive. Why? Being these workers together. And don't mess with them. Don't mess with that hive, because they're going to swarm you. And if they swarm you, you got all these workers coming at you, and there ain't no way you're going to be dealing with all them workers. They going to come at you hard, and they going to come with that sting. So, real quick, with this understanding, on these bees, we can see this bee right here. We see this bee right here in action, collecting that pollen and gathering what he needs to gather. You see him and what he's doing. He's collecting it, getting everything that he needs to get, and he's collecting this pollen. But this pollen that he gathers, when he gathers it, he's going to be doing what? He's going to be collecting it. And bees also have these things on their back legs. You can't really see it in this video right here, but they have some things on their back legs that serve as like baskets. And those baskets that they have on their back legs, those baskets, they store the pollen within that, to where when they bring it back, it's all over their body too, but they'll store the pollen in that, and then they'll bring that pollen back to the hive, to help feed their young. So we see these couple things that's going on here. We can see all these bees right here inside of their beehive. We can also see the honeycombs that they actually build, and that's another thing about them. They actually are very skilled builders, very skilled architects in how they actually do things, because wild bees in the wild, they can actually build their hives and their nests inside of tall trees where woodpeckers have bored holes through it. They can build a hive up there. They can build a hive in many different areas. They can even do certain things out in the open. But bees, they are very, very, very skilled builders in how they actually do things. Having 6 legs on their bodies, but then they also have thousands of tiny lenses on their eyes that allow them to see in a nearly 300-degree field of view to detect movement and shape. So whatever's ahead of them, they can see what is ahead of them. They can see what's around them. They have a very, very clear view of sight. They just can't see directly behind them. So these are a couple of things about them. And then also when it comes to their eyes, they also have 5 eyes in total. They have 2 large compound eyes on the sides of their head for detecting motion, colors, and pattern, and 3 small simple eyes called ocelli on top for sensing light, intensity, and navigation. So their eyes also are covered in hairs, microscopic hairs that help them detect wind direction, and they can also see ultraviolet light, which helps them to locate nectar and flowers. So their eyes are very, very, it's like their eyes are just super equipped to handle all the tasks and things that they actually do, and it helps them to locate and identify certain things as well. So it's a lot of things with that. So even with the hair being all on their bodies, but also hair being on their eyes. So it is a very, very, very interesting thing on there. But once again, 6 legs, and those legs are covered in hair, and it also helps them for walking around, but it helps them for grooming as well, because also in the hive you'll see bees that clean one another. When bees are dirty or whatever it is that they might have on them when it comes to the pollen, there's bees that are also be on one another, and those bees being on one another, they'll actually clean each other inside of the hive. They actually groom one another inside of the hive and benefit and help one another in there. So they do a lot of really interesting things. So we're going to start getting into some stuff real quick, because looking at those buildings, those bee buildings, how they construct things, right? When it comes to the hive construction, they do something. I'm going to find one more video to show that. They do this thing called festooning. And we can see that. We can see this right here, this festooning that they're doing. So what they're actually doing is, when they're building, it shows the skills, how they're also industrious. Because when they're working on their hive, building the honeycombs, they actually connect their bodies. You see them hanging off of one another. They connect their bodies from the top of what they're building, and then they build it downwards. So one worker starts at the top, and then they connect everything going down. So we can see them doing that actually right here. You see the honeycomb is up there, but they're starting to connect their bodies together, and this is helping them to know how they're going to build it. But we see even that function being these workers together. We see this unity right here. We see how all this is working, just by observing them using this Romans 1 and 20. We're seeing their what? We're looking at their operations, their works, their activities, their function, seeing how this bee functions out in nature, seeing how it's moving, seeing how it's working, seeing how they work out in nature. Why? Because we'll start with this verse right here, Romans 1 and 20. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. So we're understanding these invisible things from him from the creation of the world. We're understanding these things by the things that are made. And we're looking at these bees and their festooning. That's what this activity is. So in their hive construction, honeybees prefer cavities like hollow trees. But then you have bumblebees. They often use abandoned underground rodent burrows. We're going to really be focusing on the honeybee. Workers use plant resin for maintenance. They use propolis to seal cracks. And when it's hot, they collect water to fan and cool the hive to protect the wax. So they use wax to actually help them build the hive. So young bees consume honey, and when temperatures are ideal, secrete wax scales that they need with their mandibles. So the mandibles, that's going to be like their mouth. We're going to look at a picture of that. And we see those mandibles here. We see it. This is their mouth and what they actually are using right here. And it's coming out of there. So you see it even with this. Mandibles used for grabbing food, working with wax, and biting. We see this. It's coming from their mouth. So we see how all this is working. Same thing that was spoken. The compound eye, which is on that side, the ocellus on the top, and they also have these antennae and the proboscis. So used for drinking water, nectar, and honey. So we see the different parts of this bee, but they are all used for certain things. So we see that. So not only we're seeing the different ways that they're industrious and how they build things, we can see how important that is on how they actually are working once again together. And even when looking for a nest, they have scout bees. So there's different positions of bees that they actually have in their hive. Some of those we're gonna see that real quick, because we're getting all this information and then we just gonna start rolling right through it. So some of these different jobs, they have forager bees. So they also have these bees that are going to go out, that are going to be hunting, that are going to be doing all these things. They're going to be gathering their what? They're going to be gathering that pollen. They're hunting for this pollen. They're gathering these things, and then also that nectar as well. So bees have these various jobs. So they forage. They tend to young larvae. They tend to the honeycomb. The queen bees can choose to lay female eggs or male eggs. Then you have drone bees, which are the males. And all they do, literally all the drone bee does is eat and then mate with the queens. That's all they do, pretty much. The worker bees, they keep the cells clean, which were those honeycombs that we seen on that video. They care for the larvae. They build cells. They tend to the queen. They store honey, forage, pollinate. They guard the nest, and they feed the drones. So quite literally, those bees they're going to lay down their lives in service of the colony. They're going to put in this work for their colony, for their hive. They put in this work, and they do this with no issues at all. And they also can go through a couple of phases as well. So about 3 weeks after they're born and they emerge, because they start as that larvae, but then they have to go through a metamorphosis process where the egg is laid and then they'll hatch, and then they'll be that larvae, and then that's when the worker bee will feed that young. They'll feed this young, and they're going to feed it with that pollen, because that pollen has that protein for the bee. And that pollen is the only thing that larvae can eat until it gets strong enough to then go through its metamorphosis process to then become an adult bee, to where it's going to start putting in that work. So about 3 weeks after they born, they emerge and start working. As soon as they come out of metamorphosis, they'll automatically start cleaning the cell that they come out of. So they instantly start putting in this work. The moment they come out, they start putting in that work. Phase 2, about 3 days later, for about a week, They're gonna feed the brood that succeeds them. So all the young and all that, they feeding. They're getting all this pollen that the workers is bringing in, and they're gonna be feeding the young. And then phase 3, they become general workers, building honeycombs, storing food, and guarding the nest entrance, lasting about a week. Phase 4, about day 41, because they don't live that long actually. About day 41 and last until about day 50, they go into their foraging phase, where they leave the nest to find pollen to bring home to the colony to feed them. They find that pollen, they find that nectar, they find these different things. Because that nectar, remember, is used to make that honey so that they can store their food. They bring all that back to the hive to store it. So these are the different things that they do. These bee scouts are sent out to find food. They search for pollen, and when they find it, they store it in those saddlebags in their rear legs. And when arriving back to the nest, they'll brush off the pollen, and then the workers store the supplies. The pollen is the main food source for the bee larvae. And the adult winter bees, they store up the pollen, and it feeds the generation of summer bees, because bees, when they're born, they're only born for a season. You have summer bees and you have winter bees. So it's a whole lot of stuff that they actually get into, and they do. So with all this information and seeing the different jobs that they have, it always goes back to what we seen, that these are their works, their activities, and their functions. But then it's also showing just how industrious these bees actually are. How they're these workers together with all this diligence. We see that even when they protect that hive. You don't want to sit there and mess with them, and they all try to come at you, because they will try to do you in. Now, understanding that these bees do this festooning, all their bodies are joined together. We're gonna see something. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 3:9. It says, we only gonna look at A. It says, for we are laborers together with God. We're these workers together with God, with Jehovah. Okay? So the bees work in unison to build their nests, their hive. They build it from the top down, connecting their bodies together and using wax from their bodies, which they chew and shape into honeycomb cells. The bees are architects in how they build the hive and honeycombs. All right. So this shows the care and discipline that we should have as servants of Jehovah, working in unison to build this spiritual house. We would link from the top down, being joined together from the Spirit to receive the wisdom from the Most High. The wisdom we receive is brought down. The difference here is that Jehovah helps us in the work. Wisdom is who helps us labor. So from here, we're going to go to Wisdom of Solomon 18, 15, and 16. It says, thy almighty word leaped down from heaven out of thy royal throne, as compared to a fierce man of war into the midst of a land of destruction. Verse 16, but we're going to look at this part. And it touched the heaven, but it stood upon the earth. So we see this right here. This wisdom came from above. This word came from above and rests in vessels. We have to be linked to Jehovah, and he came from above. He keeps us functioning and operating according to what is pleasing unto him. Wisdom labors with us. We have to be united with her. These are the things that we must do. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 9. But then we're going to go from 1, 4 to 10. It reads, O God of my fathers, and creator of mercy, who has made all things with thy word. Verse 4. Give me wisdom that sitteth by thy throne, and reject me not from among thy children. Verse 10. It says, O send her out of thy holy heavens, and from the throne of thy glory, that being present she may labor with me, that I may know what is pleasing unto thee. So we want wisdom to be who we're connected to labor with us, so that this work is put in. Because we all have to be these workers together as the bee, working through wisdom and having wisdom work in us, so that what needs to be brought to pass can happen. But it's only through wisdom. So the same thing we're gonna look at. We're gonna pivot. We're gonna look at this real quick. We're gonna we're going to go to 2 Corinthians 6:16. And we're going to start here and go down. It says, "For ye are the temple of the living God." Us, the body. As God has said, "I will dwell in them and walk in them." We see that. "And I will be their guide, and they shall be my people." So being laborers together with Jehovah clearly is letting us know that we are to be joined with that one spirit, and that one spirit works through these vessels. But we have to be that willing servant. But it always goes back to from the top down, as we saw. Just as these bees are joined from the top down, the spirit is what comes down. And we have to be joined unto that one spirit for this work that happens, because it has nothing to do with our own power and ability. It has everything to do with being joined to that spirit. But that spirit comes from above. Let's go to Matthew 3:16-17. We can see Yahushua when he was baptized. And Yahushua, when he was baptized, went up straightway out of the water, and lo, the heavens were opened unto him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and lighting upon him. And lo, a voice from heaven saying, "This is my beloved Son." Who? The Spirit of God is this beloved Son. "This is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased." So that's who we need to join to. Let's look at this real quick. When we go right here to Psalms 2:12a, it says, "Kiss the Son." We see this as a capital S. Kiss the Son, kiss the servant. But kiss is talking about what in the spiritual dictionary? Join. Joined to. United. At league. A covenant. So it's showing we need to join. Join to the servant. Join to Jehovah. That's what we have to do. So just as these bees are linked together from the top down, the spirit comes from above, so we can be joined with the spirit. But we see how all this is working. So we have to all be connected with Jehovah for this work to be done. That's the only way that this can work. And it's not just, once again, that one member. It's many. It's many that are joined with that one spirit. That one that was willing to serve, that servant of the Father, which is Jehovah, the Word. We have to be joined with the Spirit of God for this work to be done. So we're going to look at 1 Corinthians 12:12, which reads, "For as the body is one, just like those bees." Why? Because they all work as one, as we seen, the unity of them bees, "and have many members, and all members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is Christ." Exactly the point. Because being joined to Jehovah makes us a member of the body, a member of Christ. That's what we have to always remember and understand. So being joined together in that unity, we're going to look at something in Job 41:14. 41:17. A and B. Which reads, "They are joined one to another. They stick together." Just like those bees coming together, being joined one to another and sticking together, we have to all stick together with the one spirit that came from above, is what we must do. And the last verse we're going to look at in this point is going to be Ephesians 4:16. It says, "From whom the whole body fitly joined together and compacted by that which every joint supplieth, according to the effectual working in the measure of every part, maketh increase of the body unto the edifying of itself in love." So understanding this, the whole body fitly joined together, just like how all those bees of that hive have all those members coming together, we have to all be joined to Jehovah, being these members of Christ, all working together, being fitly joined together and compacted by that which every joint supplieth. So we understand that everything that we receive is going to be coming from the body itself, being fueled by the one source, the spirit. It's going to be coming through these members. It's not because of the members, it's what's coming through the members, which would be that which is of the spirit. So according to the effectual working in the measure of every part, doesn't matter what part of the body we are, just as those bees have those different functions and roles within their hive, which you can look at as that's their body, whatever effectual working needs to happen in whatever part that you're in, you put in that work. Doesn't matter, because it's maketh the increase of the body unto the edifying of itself in love. Why? Because everything that we receive of the spirit of Jehovah, that stays within this body, and then the body's able to edify itself only through the spirit, because all praise, all glory, and all credit will go back to Jehovah, because he's the one that's feeding his own body using the vessels of the body. So everything is staying within that one body, within that one spirit, just as all the bees working together work together within that one hive to bring everything in to help their one body. So they're going to be bringing all these things, but it's all going back to that one place, that one source. It doesn't matter. Make it the increase of the body unto the edifying of itself in love. We have to always all be in unity with that one spirit. So another thing that bees actually do, because whenever they find food and they know where to get the food at, right, we're going to see something. This part that we're going to be looking at here with the bees is showing something that they actually do that helps them basically, quite literally, it's crazy, but they share coordinates and paths to get to the food. This is point number 2, the waggle dance. So bees do, we see it on the screen. These bees do this dance right here. And they do this dance to show where the other workers must fly to find food. So these dances aren't done just for no reason, just to have them be done. These dances actually map out the coordinates that they fly. And the other bees we see are around, they're observing what's going on, but they're doing these things to relay information, is what this is. So they do the waggle dance to help the other bees know the direction to fly, to get to the different flowers, to get to all these different things. So this right here being compared to what? When we gather and we're given, because when we study, we seek to be blessed, to be given wisdom. When we gather wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that is given unto us from Jehovah, we also show where we got this from and point others in the right direction in Scripture to gather this in their studies. The wisdom that we're given is passed down from generation to generation. Because with these bees, when they do this, this helps the new younger bees who are coming through know the way that they need to go to have the food that they all go and gather. So do we have to do the same identical thing when we're studying, when we're meditating, when we're putting in this work? We share this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding with our brothers and sisters and point them in the direction to go to get more. This is why even when teachings and things is going out, our pastor tells us to meditate. Why? If we was putting in work, we can be given the direction to go to help us to gather more. But if we're going on the right path, we can receive that correction or further insight to what it is that we need to see and know to continue to move forward on the journey. But it's if we're serious and diligent about what's going on. And any teacher that's here, if there's any assignment or project or anything that's going out, that to anyone that's seeking to get stronger, that's something that can be provided. Why? Because as we grow and increase, we should seek for the rest of the body to grow and increase. Going back to this right here, it's Ephesians 4:16. From whom the whole body fitly joined together and compacted. This compacted. This compacted. Joined together. Coupled. Unity. And compacted. So joined together. So unified. Is joined by that which every joint supplieth. We're unified through all these other parts and what these other parts is actually given. We're unified by the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that's given through Jehovah. We're joined through that one spirit. According to the effectual working in the measure, this portion of every part. The effectual working in the portion of every part. Measure. See, that's that portion. It's the portion of every part. So it doesn't matter what part of the body that you're working in. Whatever wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that you have to give, that based on whatever portion you're in, it's cool. Why? Because that helps somebody to understand what it is they need to do to get closer to the Most High. Because what was given to that portion, that part of the body, guess what? That's beneficial to the whole body. But all this, what? Maketh increase of the body unto the edifying of itself in love. We see these. We see this. So this waggle dance, we're going to see something. Because just as we receive this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as given through the Spirit unto us, as we meditate, read, and study, and pray, seeking wisdom, then guess what? So these things shall be for a statute of judgment, doctrines, and teachings unto you throughout your generations in all your dwellings. But guess what? Just as these bees pass this down to the younger bees that are growing up within that hive, then guess what this means? This needs to be passed down to our children that are coming from where? This child that's born. All these children that are being born, we need to make sure that they have the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that's being given to us. We give to them to help them. So we go to Deuteronomy 6:7. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children. So just as these bees is going to do this waggle dance to show the other bees where to get the food, we got to do the same thing. We have to point our children in the right direction on receiving wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. We have to point them in the right places to look at when they're studying. Why? Because you don't want to hinder their growth by doing everything for them. So you got to show them the ways to go, but they have to put in the work for themselves to grow in their relationship with Jehovah and grow deeper in knowledge and understanding. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. Constantly putting in the work, being the workers together, showing the diligence of the bees. This is what we need to do. But right here, Psalms 78:6 lets us know something. That the generation to come might know them, even the children which should be born, who should arise and declare them to their children. Showing that way to go, showing the way to move, showing the way to live through the wisdom that was given unto us through Christ, being members of this one body. By what? Being members of this body, sharing what was given by him. It's clear as day. So now, the last part of this piece, we go to Isaiah 30:21. It says, and we're gonna start right here. This is the way. Walk ye in it. When you turn to the right hand and when you turn to the left. We should be willing to always point those in the right direction in this journey. Those that are truly seeking the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. But when it comes to someone eating grapes, being a knowledge hunter, nah, because then they're going to take that and use that for something else that they shouldn't use it for. It should only be used to help one another to get closer and closer to God, to Jehovah, to the Most High. This is what we must do. So the same thing is, We're going to point number 3, which we looked at with the ants, but is something that's else with this right here. Because when bees hunt and gather food, they hunt and gather a portion that they can get for themselves, and they bring it back to the hive. Pollen gathering is turned into food. Okay, so pollen gathered is turned into food for the brood, so which is the larvae, those babies, and the nectar is gathered to make honey. So too do we go and gather our omer, and what we learn, we bring it back and are able to share what it is that we learn, whatever that it is, small or large. They bring it back to their colony. So too should we be willing to give alms, whether we have a little or a lot. But the thing about it is, these bees, they consider all. They consider all that's in that hive. They don't just, oh yeah, I'm going to get this and I'm going to... No. The bees want the success and the benefit of all of their hive. All that's a part of them. So the thing about it is this. We're going to look at something. We already seen this before, so we won't be on this part too long. But it's some other pieces in there with these bees. So it says, and the children of Israel saw it. They said one to another, it is manna, for they wist not what it was. And Moses said unto them, this is the bread which the Spirit of God hath given you to eat. Verse 16. This is the thing which the Spirit of God hath commanded. Gather of it, every man according to his eating. An omer, for every man. We see this. This omer, this measure, this portion. For every man, male or female, according to the number of your persons. We're going to stop right there. So we see that. Just as these bees have to gather the pollen and the nectar, whatever it is that they gather, they put it on those little bag things on the back of their leg. They'll gather it. They'll have that nectar, which that nectar is stored in a special part of their body. It's like a special stomach. We have to have these things within us to bring back, to share what it is that we've learned that's been given unto us of Jehovah. Clear. Verse 17. And the children of Israel did so, and gathered some more, some less. This is clear. Every last one of those bees put in work. The queen has her own functions and things that she does, but them worker bees, they go out there, they put in work. They put in work. Look at that 2 Thessalonians 3:10, which reads, for when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat. Clear as day. Because those bees being workers together, they all gonna make sure everybody has what they need, but them bees will go out there and put in work. Period. Why? Because they all want to eat. They put in work so that they can have that nectar to make that honey, to store that honey in the hive for winter, so that they can have that food when it gets cold, when it gets scarce. They have all that food stored up from all the work that they put in out there to gather that nectar, to produce this honey, to ensure that all have the food that they need. So just as these bees do that, we're going to look at something real quick. We're going to look at Malachi 3:10 to see something. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house. And prove me now herewith, saith the Spirit of God of hosts, providing I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. This is the same thing that we need to do, just as what the bees do. They get that portion. They get that piece that they need to bring back to have what they need, because when them summer bees is putting in work, they making sure that that next generation has that honey and that nourishment to be able to survive and do what they need to do. So we should do the same thing, passing this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding down to the next generation, down to the ones that are born again, new. Passing this wisdom and knowledge down, showing that love and compassion to our brothers and sisters that seeking after Jehovah, showing this brotherly love, showing these things, showing being workers together as the bee. Clear. Because this tithe, these are these portions. It ain't talking about no money. It ain't talking about that. That ain't the focus of this teaching, but they ain't talking about no money. It's that portion of what we learn that we bring back. These things that we've overcome. We already had Feast of Tabernacles, where we brought what we learned that Jehovah has helped us to overcome to move forward in the journey. So we bring all these portions into the storehouse. It's why we have SharePoint. It's why we have these things. Why? So those can go back and eat. So that its knowledge is passed down. So whatever it is that we get, whether it's a lot or a little, it matters. It's Tobit 4:8. If thou hast abundance, give alms accordingly. If thou have but a little, be not afraid to give according to that little. Don't judge what you got. Don't judge what you got. Because what it is that they gathered, that they learned, that portion that they received, that needs to be brought back. When we look at Exodus 16:18. And when they did meet it with an omer, he that gathered much had nothing left over. He that gathered little had no lack. You ain't lacking just because you had that little bit, but don't be afraid to share it. They gathered every man according to his eating, according to his learning. So these larvae, these babies that's in there, are unable to eat honey because they need protein that supports their rapid growth. This shows that even foundational teachings are essential for new listeners, being as that milk that supports them in their early development, just as pollen helps the bee larvae to grow and go through their transformation to become a bee. Let's look at John 21:15-17. Which reads, so when they had dined, Jesus said unto Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these? He said unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He said unto him, Feed my lambs. He said to him again the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? He said unto him, Yea, Lord. See these double right here. He said unto him, that's a quote. That's a quote. So these are double quotation. These are double quotes. So he's not calling him the Most High. He's not doing that. Because in scripture there is no quotation marks. So when you see this, these are double quotes, double quotations. Thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my sheep. He said unto him the third time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? Peter was grieved because he said unto him the third time, Lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Lord, thou knowest all things. Thou knowest that I love thee. Jesus said unto him, Feed my sheep. So we see these lambs, these blameless ones. These are the young. And these young need the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding given unto them. So we have to be as this feeder, feeding them as we gather the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that was given unto us through a study and a meditation, and how Jehovah brought us through it. Whatever it is that we learn to help us to get closer, we give it to the young in simplicity. They need that milk. The sheep, they also are fed with the same wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that was given unto us by Jehovah. So the same thing is, even looking at this, we're not sitting there looking at a man as the shepherd. It's the spirit that was within that was leading and guiding. It was the spirit that was working within Jesus that was leading and guiding. There are other lessons and teachings that show this, but we do not worship Jesus the man, and Jesus the man was not telling anybody to worship him. That wasn't what was going on. Because Jesus, the man, spake of the spirit. We're going to look at just two pieces on that just to clear it and then move on. Jesus himself said in Luke 18:19, and Jesus said unto him, why callest thou me good? None is good, save one, that is God. So he's clearly letting you know, why are you calling him good? Why are you calling him good? The only one that's good is God. He ain't God. For anybody that's new, it's not a man that we serve and worship, because God is a spirit, which is John 4:24. Hey, God is a spirit. Jesus was just a man. That is it. And this man was speaking of the spirit. When you see that in John 7:38. He that believeth on me, as the scripture have said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. But then 39, it says, but this he spake of the spirit. This spake he of the spirit. So it's not about the man. It's all about the spirit. So the same thing is those words that was put in his mouth, that was given to him by the spirit. So we see what's going on here, and how this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, we see, feed my lambs, feed my sheep, feed my sheep. It's not about what? It ain't about keeping stuff and hoarding these things. So bees, once again, they gather pollen for their brood. That's still a portion that they getting. For their brood, their young, their larvae. They will feed their young with this. But the nectar, they use this to produce honey to feed their hive with. The ones who are older. So this shows that the bees feed both old and young. And we men, once again, feeding the flock, helping the flock, giving the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. The lambs receive what they receive. The older receive what they receive. But the learner themselves, whatever level the learner is at, needs to collect the portion that they're able to get. Showing all this work that's being done in the body. So last two verses of this section, we're going to look at 1 Peter 2:2. It says, as newborn babes, desire the sincere milk of the word, which is like that pollen for the young, for the bee larvae. It's that foundational. Let's look at that real quick. That milk. Right there. It's this simplicity. It's this nurture. But then right here, basic teachings, fundamental principles or introductory lessons in spiritual matters. We see that. It's this spiritual nourishment. The foundational aspects or starting points of Jehovah's doctrine. That's it. That's what all that's milk. So wherever any learner is, then that's where they start. Whether it be the actual young or the ones that's born again, the ones that just came in the truth, those. We see these things. Last one. Actually, let me see. Yeah, let's go to that 1 Corinthians, and then we'll go to the next section. Let me see. 1 Corinthians 3:2. It says, I fed you with milk, and not with meat. For hitherto you were not able to bear it, neither yet now are ye able, because those bees are going to feed that larvae with that pollen that has that protein packed in it. So we see how that's working. But then you have the next section, which is what? The winter bees and the summer bees. The winter bees and the summer bees. Because a bee's life is for a season. But in that season, they put in the work to fulfill their purpose during that time. And we're no different. We're in this world for a season. And we must pass down wisdom that was given to us to the next generation. But also for those that are new in the truth. You have summer bees and winter bees. They work different functions based on the season they're born in. Each bee generation passes their goods unto the next one. We're to do the same thing, passing the wisdom that was given down to the next generation, all the food and nourishment gathered. We bring all these things into the storehouse. And those that have it, they're able to go and see and gather these things. So the bees have to build up and they have to break down. They build their hive using stable wax materials, but they also have to do maintenance on it, behaving as engineers and architects in hive construction. So, thing about it is, hey, now with them bees, once the generation of winter bees hatch, they remove the old summer bees from the nest. They like, look, we here, Get out. That's what them bees do. Now, we not doing that. You know, just because somebody's old or something, okay, you don't kick them out. You know what I mean? Like, okay, if they start going against the ways they're hoping, then that's something different. But yeah, them bees, they don't play. Once they hatch, they like, all right, we good. All right, y'all. New kid in town. Them bees don't be playing. So, we're going to see something. I'm going to go Ecclesiastes 3:1. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Verse 2. A time to be born and a time to die. They're only there for that season. They're only there for that season. Verse 3. And a time to build up, a time to break down. Why? Those bees have to build that hive. They have to build up all these things. And then the same thing is, as they build it up, when maintenance and all these things need to be done, they have to break it down. But the same thing is a time to break down and a time to build up. Because when those bees are born, they have to break down that cell that they're in. They have to eat their way out and break it down and then do cleaning, maintenance on it, and then help to continue to build up that hive. So it's continuous work that needs to be done. Let's go to Ecclesiastes. Let's go to chapter 1 and verse 4. A and B. One generation passeth away, and another cometh. You have the bees that come in the winter, that are born in that winter, and you have the bees that are born in the summer. So, in the winter, once temperatures drop, the bees all can come together. Even when it freezes outside the nest, they can keep the inside temperature at 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And they shake their muscles rapidly. They do this. We're going to see that. Alright, so we're going to see something real quick with that. Because they cluster together to stay warm. They cluster together and it keeps them warm. But they also do that to ward off predators and stuff like that. Because they can actually jump on a predator, warm up their bodies, and literally suffocate it to death. But they shake their flight muscles rapidly, and it causes them to lose energy, and it makes them vulnerable. So they need to eat the stored honey that's in the hive in order to conserve energy. And bees rotate their positions from the cold outer edge of the cluster, so they call it a winter cluster. They like whenever they're keeping warm, they call that a winter cluster, and they rotate their positions from the cold outer edge of the cluster to the warm center to survive. So you have bees that's on the outside that stay there for a second, and then they rotate and go inside. So they rotate so they can all help each other survive and live. So it's crazy. So we're going to see that real quick.
Know that bees hug each other when needed? Not just to fend off an invading hornet, but also to keep their queen cozy. During winter, they form a tight, ball-like group called a winter cluster, with the queen at the center to stay warm and safe. The outer layer bees act as insulation, and occasionally switch places with inner bees to avoid freezing. They generate heat by vibrating their flight muscles without flapping their wings, and snack on honey to stay energized. A single colony can consume up to 30 pounds of honey just to survive the season. It's amazing how these tiny creatures work together to endure the harshest weather.
Okay, so even with that, we see that, and we see how they do that. So we're going to see something real quick. We're going to see Ecclesiastes. (4:11). It says, again, if two lie together, then they have heat. But we're going to see what that lie is. Two lie together. Right here. Remain together. They're going to abide together. They're going to dwell together. We see that. They're going to occupy together. But we see, again, if two dwell together, then they have heat. But how can one be warm alone? But then you got thousands and thousands of these bees together. We see that. We see this. And they all come together in that winter cluster. So all of us abiding together should be on one accord and remain in the spirit, having that fire burning within. And that fire that burns within us has to be the desire of the Lord, burning bright and hot. And all being together, we bring this fervent heat, but it's all of the Spirit. All of the food that is stored up, we have the opportunity to eat and glean from, and we are able to aid one another. So guess what? We see this here. So with that understanding, we see this here. We're going to look at Exodus 3 and 2. It says, and the angel of the Spirit of God appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. So it's this messenger of Jehovah. This appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. So this bush is just talking about these people that was there. And he looked, and behold, remember, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. But this is how we should be in the body. Why? Because this bush was burned but was not consumed. It's the desire of Jehovah, the desire of the Most High. When we all come together, that's the one desire that we should be in, and it burns fervently. We're going to look at Romans 12 and 11. Not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. It's the characteristic of that bush. That bush, not slothful in business, fervent in spirit. What is that fervent talking about? Fervent. We see that. It's zealous, desirous, but we see this right here. Hot. Hot in spirit. Hot. So this is what we need to be. Fervent in spirit, hot in spirit, having this heat. Because this heat is what we need to have. And then when we all come together, just as those bees all come together, and then that heat kicks in, we need to be doing the same thing. Being fervent in spirit, being as this bush that burned with fire but was not consumed. We're going to look at Revelation 3 and 15. Right here. It says, I would thou work hot. It says, I would thou work cold or hot. So either we're going to be fervent in spirit, we're going to be hot, or we're going to be cold. Being spiritually dead, being separated from the spirit, not having that heat. So we're going to look at this last section. And we're in this section, it's called the hive mind. Because these bees, they all work together as one mind. They all operate as one unit in this true unity. They are a demonstration of what true unity looks like. And it has absolutely nothing to do with their physical attributes or work functions, but in the inner workings of their beings, all being unified in one consensus. Many members being as one body with one mind. So the same thing is, all these bees, they all work together in harmony, in unity with one another. And they do this with no problem. They do this clearly. And if you mess with one of them bees, if you mess with their queen, them bees is going to put in some work. And they all going to do it together. Why? Because we already saw the meaning of that bee was workers together. Unity. We see that. So we're going to look at this in 1 Corinthians. Because it's just showing that we are as a hive. But we have to be this hive that's of Jehovah, being these workers together as the bees. Now I beseech you, brethren, by the way of our creator of salvation, Jehovah, that you all speak the same thing, and that there be no divisions among you, but that ye be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment, in the same doctrines and teachings. This is how true unity is in the body of Christ. Not just because you here, not just because you around, not just because we are physically present in the same location. We have to all have the same mind, the same purpose, the same objective, not moving in a contrary way unto Jehovah. That is unity. Unity is of the spirit. Unity is of the mind. Unity is of the inward, not the exterior. Why? People die every day flesh is not going to inherit the kingdom of God. So therefore, we must be of one mind, one spirit, moving in the ways of Jehovah. So we're going to see this in Amos 3:3. Can two walk together except they be agreed? See, a while ago, Deacon Hicks' class, I received some counsel from the pastor, and he helped me to understand, because it was the Spirit speaking through him, giving this wisdom, because the wisdom didn't come from the man, it came from what was in the man. Letting me know that unity requires agreement, not mere companionship, not just because you there, you just getting along with to get along. No, it requires agreement, not companionship, not just because you cool with somebody. No, it's shared belief and obedience, which all the bees have. They have a shared belief and obedience. So when one deviates, the walk becomes divided. The walk becomes divided. We're going to look at this. When we look at what an agreement is, yeah, it's unity. We have to be agreed in an agreement. That's what the unity is all about. But look, it's this covenant. Underneath the one covenant, being on one concord. It's what needs to happen. It's the only way. It's the only way. But then, same thing is this concord being in harmony. Just as the bees, being workers together. That's what has to happen. So these bees help one another. They operate in one mind, with this one purpose, with this one objective, with this one goal. Ants do the same thing too. They have that one mind even in the ant colony. But the bees, they show and demonstrate this, being as this hive mind. Why? Because they all have one mind, one purpose, one goal, one objective, one mission. And they do it. So when we look at Proverbs 17:17, iron sharpeneth iron. So a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend, helping one another, aiding one another. This is clear. Walking in this true unity, walking in this true fellowship, being in the one agreement, being in the one covenant. Ecclesiastes 4:9-10. Two are better than one, for they have a good reward for their labor. We see that. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he have not another to help him up. We see that. And these bees, they help one another. They support one another. They strengthen one another. They cleanse one another. They'll clean one another to prevent diseases and sicknesses. They aid one another when they need it. They aid the queen. They aid each other. They aid the young. They work in true unity because they operate in one mind. One mind. One mind. Look at Sirach 6:14-16, which reads, a faithful friend is a strong defense, and he that hath found such hath found a treasure. Nothing doeth countervail a faithful friend, and his excellency is invaluable. A faithful friend is the medicine of life, and they that desire the Creator shall find him. Right here. Countervail. None equals him. None's going to equal that faithful friend. That true friend, they with you because they want you to do well and they want you to get better. That true friend, they support you. That true friend, they show that love towards you to help you to get right with the Most High. That's a friend. That's a friend. I know who mine are. A real friend is not going to want to hurt another friend. A real friend, you're not going to sit there and be against somebody that you is calling your friend. Because if you're walking in the ways of Jehovah, that's the only ways you're going to give one another. That's the ways that you're going to be pushing one another towards. That's a friend. So just as these ants all work together, being workers together, not everybody in the body, you know what I mean? Because we in a mixed multitude. Not everybody's going to be that bee. But those ones that truly is rolling with you for your benefit to help you get closer to Jehovah in sincerity, that's a friend. On this last part here, we're going to look at. Let's go to Philippians 3:16. Philippians 3:16. Nevertheless, whereto we have already attained, let us walk by the same rule. Let us mind the same thing. Let us mind the same thing. Romans 12:16. It says, wait a minute. What? Oh, wait, no. 12:16. Let me see. Be of the same mind, one toward another. Mind not high things, but consent to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits. And the number one thing is, let's go to 1 Corinthians 12, 4-6. Because having that one mind, being these different members, now there are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are differences of administrations, but the same Creator. And there are diversities of operations, but it's the same God which worketh all in all. Being a part of this one body, being a part of the same mind, but we all have work that we have to do. One works over here, one works over there, one works down there, one works back there. We all have work that we have to do, being this one body. Being as these bees in the true unity, being workers together. Having the same mind, having the same goal, having the same directive, but we might work in different places. We might have a different function and purpose in what we're doing, but it's all under the same mind. We have to have that mind of Christ. It never had anything to do with flesh. It never had anything to do with external practices. We all have to have the same mind, the mind of Christ. This is the only way for true unity to abound. Anyone can do outward expressions of companionship and fellowship, but of the mind is different. It'll show in how you talk. It'll show in your speech. It'll show in your actions. If the mind is different, there is no true unity. The bees all operate as one with one mind, one purpose, and one goal. And this is something we should all strive for, even though in the mixed multitude, not all will do it. So Philippians 2:5 is what I'll end this off with. Because we need to have that mind, that one mind. And that's the mind of Christ. It says, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, Jehovah salvation. I'm thankful for the brotherhood and for what Jehovah has done. All the correction that was given. So I encourage everybody, be like the bees. Being workers together, showing this diligence, being industrious, having that sweetness, sharing nourishment, being in unity. Because these bees and all the other things in nature we can learn a lot from. So with that being said, I hope somebody learned something from this lesson today. Somebody was richly edified. And thank you for coming out. This has been Brother Kahleial. And we say unto each and every last one of you, take care and shalom.